Good morning, good morning, good morning everyone. It is a beautiful day here. It's Sunday morning at just gone 10 o'clock and the weather is stunning outside. It's bright blue sky, it's just beautiful, but guess what? It's not hot, and actually this morning earlier the air had like this cool feeling in it. So I've opened up the whole house. It's just, it's beautiful. Gives me energy. It makes me feel, just so beautiful. I love it. Anyway, it is gorgeous today. I think we're going to have a maximum of 25, which is a very comfortable temperature. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's very, very comfortable for me. So I'm happy with that. And today I thought I'd better just bring Lottie on and show you Lottie, because you haven't seen her for ages. That beautiful little Ramsey has been getting all my attention, and I've been having fun trying different outfits on her to see what she'll go home with. But she'll be with me for a little while, so I'll show her again for sure. Just doing a little camera fiddle, as you can tell. It's probably annoying you, but when it's not centered I get annoyed, so you can't put up with me being annoyed. We won't have that. So there we are. I'm reasonably happy with that. And I really wanted to show you what she's wearing today. So before I go on, let me just imagine that you don't all know me as well as I know myself, because I keep forgetting that you don't. And let me just tell you that my name is Suzanne, and I make these babies. I made this one, and her name that I've called her is Lottie, but she's actually the Marianne sculpt by Natalie Blick. And I think the sculpt might be a couple of years old. I think so. Yeah, it would have to be, because I made her a year ago, just over a year ago now, and I had the kit for a while before then. So it's probably a 2-year-old kit. Anyway, so this is my Lottie, and she's about, I think, 22.5 inches, and a very, very comfortable 0 to 3 months. She just fits perfectly into those clothes, which suits me, because you guys might know that I just love baby clothes, like most of us do. Yeah, I do. And so it's great fun and very easy to find things for Lottie. And what I wanted to show you that she's wearing today is a little, it's 3 separate pieces, and I bought it in 2 separate lots from Etsy, an Australian seller here on Etsy. And she actually lives in Sydney, so postage is cheap and quick, which I love. So the first thing I bought was the hat, or the bonnet, and the nappy cover, the bloomers. And I bought them in 2 different sizes, because most reborn babies have heads that are smaller than real babies. I think if they were sculpted accurately, we might not like the look of it as much. We're used to it with real babies, but we may not like it in our reborn. So the heads tend to be smaller than the rest of them. So Lottie tends to fit into newborn or 1 month size bonnets, whereas her clothes are always 0 to 3 months. I mean, her feet are very small too. She wears newborn shoes. So I bought the hat and the bonnet. They're the same fabric, and I could have bought them as a set, but I needed the hat to be smaller, so I hadn't bought from this seller before. So I bought the 2 separate pieces at the same time, and then I dressed Lottie in what I thought would look gorgeous on top, and I didn't like it. It's a lovely light pink just a blouse with a collar, but it just looked insipid, and I had already noted, of course, that the seller had this little, it's a corduroy, a smooth, like velour kind of corduroy. So it has got the little the lines in it that makes it corduroy, but it really feels like velour. It's beautiful. And when I saw that on her side, I thought I'll just get that too, and it matches the bonnet and her nappy cover. So it buttons up the back, and it's got puff sleeves and a little Peter Pan collar, and it's in an interesting sort of colour. It's kind of a sort of a mauvey colour. It's not really pink, but it matches perfectly with the fabric of her hat and bloomers, which are floral, in beautiful muted sort of colours. The the background is a cream colour, and then the foliage is a interesting sort of sage green. There are greenish sort of flowers and a dusky sort of pink flowers, light and dark. And there is a flower that is a light coloured version of her blouse that she's wearing. And because it's a bit cooler today, I thought I could get away with a thicker fabric on top for her, that corduroy. So that's what she's wearing, and I think she looks gorgeous. I love that shape of the bonnet, which is really why I bought it. That is my favourite shape for a bonnet, where it just, hugs the little face and just looks perfect. And she's holding in her right hand, which is a very cute hand. It has a pointing kind of finger. I'll just move her little rabbit and you can see her finger. See how that hand is? It's very cute. She can hold things in that. So I tend to put things in that hand for her. So this is her little Moulin Rouge, I think that's how you say Rouge or Roti rabbit in a lace christening gown. It's just a very small rabbit, just right for Lottie to hold. And the christening gown has pink ribbon tied around it at the bodice. So that's what you're looking at. Now I just want to warn you that this might end up being a long video, because I did promise a couple of videos ago that I would show you some of my Dionne Quintuplets. So I picked out a set to show you, and I'll tell you about them, and that is going to take a while, so I hope you can bear that. But here they are. Let me get them for you. They're just off to the side here. I'll put them on top of Lottie. Let's see if this will work, if you can see them when they're here. I have to make sure they're safe and she's safe. Now that's not ideal, is it? Let me just zoom out a bit. Now, I wonder if you can see that well enough. I dare not really move it further forward. Let me just try, just in case. It's safe. Let me see. Okay, that's fine. It's not sitting on Lottie. There's a gap, and I think they're pretty stable there. So now let me see about coming in a bit closer. So, oh, that's better. What do you think of that? You can sort of see them quite well now, can't you? So these are 5 identical babies, and they are called the Dionne Quintuplets. They were made by a company called Madame Alexander, who lots of you would have heard of. That company still exists and still makes dolls. They're vinyl dolls now. They're sweet things like dolls for Halloween and, Snow White, all sorts of dolls. Very, very sweet faces and very collectible. But what we're looking at is these little girls, and they're made of a substance called composition, which is really a mixture of just stuff they had left over. So it was like wood shavings or wood shavings and glue, and I'm not sure what else, like just mysterious things that happened to be left over in a factory, and they moulded them into these little shapes. They were produced by the thousands, these little sets, and they have come in all sorts of varieties. This is the smallest size because I see the battery is on red. Okay, I better keep an eye on that. This is the smallest size, which is my favourite size, but they go all the way up to toddler. And even with these ones have bent legs, but you can get them with straight legs in this size. These have moulded little curls at the front, and you can get them with fairly straight looking hair or less moulded. So there are versions within the sizes, and companies copied them and got into trouble. So there are copies around, and also I think there are some that are identical, but they don't have Madame Alexander written on the back. And I think probably at the factory, maybe some workers produced some sets, but didn't actually stamp them on the back, or didn't mould them on the back with the Madame Alexander name. So there are, all sorts of different versions you can find around the place. But these are all originals, and they're all in their original outfits, and you might notice that they each have a different colour. And the reason for that is because when these babies were born, which is another story I'll tell you in a minute, they were identical. They were very, very tiny. All 5 of them weighed less than 14 pounds altogether. They just fitted in the palm of a adult hand. So they were really microscopic little things. Not literally microscopic, but very small. And they were identical, so as they grew, they used to keep each one in a specific colour, and I'll tell you what the colours are. These colours are faded because they're very old outfits from the early 1930s or mid 1930s. So this little one is called Emily, and she always wore pink. This little one is called Annette, and she always wore yellow. This little one is called Yvonne, and she always wore pink. This one is Marie, and she always wore blue, and this one is Cecile, and she always wore green. Now they were born in Canada, so their names are spelt in the French way. Like Emily is all with E's. What else? No, that might be the only one that is spelt differently. Yeah, maybe that's it. So they were born in 1934, and they were the first known identical quintuplets to be conceived naturally and born and to survive. So it was a big deal. These babies were a very, very big deal. And their parents already had other children, and they didn't have a lot of money. But these babies became very famous, and when the Chicago World's Fair was on, their daddy took them to show them off at the World's Fair. I assume he got some money for doing that. And the Canadian government thought that was exploitation, which of course it was. But what they decided to do was make the babies wards of the state. And they took the babies and they set them up in a compound opposite the parents' house. And people used to file in and look at what the babies were doing as they grew. So there was wire mesh and glass between the observers and the little babies. And they each had a nurse who looked after them, but it was a very strange way to grow up. They had every toy under the sun that you could imagine, and they were really just treated as if they were in a zoo and people just came to stare at them. Which doesn't make zoos sound too good, does it? And they're not. But anyway, so that's how these poor little children were brought up until they were 9. And by then they had been exploited to the max. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of these dolls were made in all different sizes and all sorts of other things. So petrol garages and hairdressers, grocery shops, they all had like a calendar of the quintuplets, or paper fan, or spoons, or there were all sorts of things that were made. But unfortunately the parents saw very little of that money, virtually none, and neither did these little children. Anyway, when they were 9 they went back to their family, but their parents weren't very happy to have them back. They were expensive to look after, I guess, and they said to the girls, we would have been better off if you hadn't been born. So it was just a very sad story all around. And that is the story of these Dionne Quintuplets. Now these ones, you can see, are sitting in an original cradle, but they all come in all sorts of things. You can buy them without anything. I've had them in individual little, like a high chair, a low chair, a little tricycle, a playpen, and high chair, low chair, tricycle, playpen. There's one more thing. There were 5 different things. I can't think what the last one was. Oh, how silly. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, a little bed. That's right, a little tiny bed. So you could get that. There are swings. There are seesaws. There's a bed that I've got. There's a row of high chairs that are all joined in like a semicircle, and I've got that as well. And a basket. I'm slowly selling off these things. I had lots and lots of sets, but at each doll fair I usually sell 1 or 2 sets. So yeah, this is a very complete set, and you'll see they're all in their original clothes. Some sets did come with shoes and socks, but I don't have any of the shoes and socks for any of my sets because a lot of them didn't come with them. But they each have an original little brooch. You can get copies, identical copies of these made, but these are the originals. They're very sweet, aren't they? And the dresses just do up with a safety pin on the back. I think I've mentioned that to you before in relation to other baby clothes that were made in the 30s and 40s. They often didn't finish them off. I guess it was too fiddly and they were making tons and tons of these. So they just put a safety pin in the back. And they have little nappies on underneath. Let me see. Or do they? Oh yes, they do. There's a little nappy. And a little petticoat that's under the dress, because it's very sheer organza dress. With tiny, tiny little scalloped, like rickrack, but not quite rickrack, in white around the hems and the little extended sleeves on each dress. Their bonnets match. Usually have replaced ribbons because the ribbons never lasted. So I'm pretty sure all of these have replaced ribbons. But you can see how Emily's has faded. Her ribbon is the right colour still, but her dress sort of looks pink instead of, you know, a lavender sort of colour. And that's because their dyes weren't very good and the colours really faded. Yvonne's pink dress is barely pink. And you can see how blue Marie's bonnet is, and that's because that was almost faded to white, and the person who had this set before me added a tiny bit of blue dye to it, but it just took so quickly, so it's quite blue. But that's okay, it's still the original bonnet with new ribbon ties on it. So I think I've finished. Oh my goodness, have I really? So if you're interested in Dionne Quintuplets, just look them up. There's a lot of information on them. It's Dionne, that's Dionne, and then Quintuplets. So if you're interested, have a look. And these are just one set of my darling girls. And I made it before the battery ran out. So I'll go. I think I really will go now. And yeah, I will. And I'll say goodbye, and I'll quickly say goodbye before the thing cuts out. So everyone, thank you so much for coming back to my channel. I appreciate it so much. I hope you've enjoyed this half reborn and half vintage doll video today. I hope that's okay for you. If you don't like it, you can let me know, and I won't, you know, I'll take that into consideration. I won't do them. But I think most people who collect reborns are interested in all dolls. Well, I hope so, because I am. I mean, I've been collecting dolls for way longer than I ever collected reborns, because reborns haven't been around that long. Imagine, I mean, these guys, oh, there, I'm talking again. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop and release you all. So everyone, thank you very much for coming to my channel. And just thank you for your beautiful comments. I had so much fun answering the last lot. They were excellent. So thank you, everyone. And until we meet again, please take care and be kind to each other. Bye-bye.